Hi everybody, welcome to School of Scarlet. I'm so happy to have you here today. Today we're going to be talking about being scared to share our spiritual gifts, being scared to share our spiritual side with people. So we're going to be talking about that, delving into that subject throughout this discussion, and we're going to go very deep. So stay with me to the very end. So today I also wanted to share with you that there is another video around spiritual gifts. If you haven't watched that one, it's the one previous to this one. And so I've linked that down below, and I've also linked that in the comments. I also want to share some announcements with you. The early bird special for the unconditional course is still available. We are opening up a new portal and going through that to open and reorient to our hearts. So if you're interested in coming along with me on the journey of realizing our true selves, then that offering is available to you right now. It's very affordable. It's a 3-month course. It's a supportive course that encompasses live one-on-ones, live sessions, coursework through our platform, and many other things. Like we've incorporated things like Facebook group. So this is a very highly supportive course. It's not just a course that you're just going to get a bunch of material. It can be whatever you want. And so it is whatever you make it. It's very highly supportive, like I say, or it can be something that you can go at your own pace. But it has all of the features and options to help you even through things like your body, your nervous system. I've included like everything that you would ever need to go through this journey. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to gift yourself this for Christmas or for right now, just because it's special, and go on this journey with me. We will be getting started on this course on 1st of January. So come with me on this portal. It'll be amazing. So today we're going to be talking about being scared. So I'm going to kind of talk to you about my journey of finding out my spiritual gifts, going through that journey of really being scared to share anything with anyone, really. So I'm going to go through that journey, and it's a journey that a lot of people go through. And so I have the opportunity to speak to people on one-on-ones, and I find it to be the case that most people hold spiritual gifts, that they are hiding from the world. And so we're going to kind of talk about that here today. We're also going to kind of talk about how history goes and how human evolution seems to evolve. So we're going to kind of be delving into some kind of philosophical ideas as well. So come along with me on this discussion. So I'd like to first start with something that happened the other day. So I went over to my family home and my family's home, and my dad was going to show us the play Our Town. Now, I had heard of the play, and I think I had even done a monologue or two in high school from it, but I hadn't really remembered it, so I was up to watching it with him. And so we were searching for it, and it wasn't on Netflix. It wasn't on the normal streaming platforms. So we began to look for it on YouTube, and they had different renditions. They had one from '89, one from the 2000s, and maybe one from the 60s or something like that. And so we clicked on each one, and we were so like surprised and just, that how bad the quality was of the image. And so my brother mentioned that he had just had this insight recently where he was looking at something that was from the 90s or so. And the video quality or the image quality was just so horrible. It was unbearable to watch. And he had the thought and the insight of how could we have ever watched this? Or why didn't we ever say, why is this image so blurry? Or, why didn't we complain about it being so blurry? It seemed like it was perfectly clear back then and we had no problem with it at all. But now we have TVs that are like 4K and HD and all of these things. And now we see clearly, and we're seeing that the image back then was so completely unclear. And so it's almost unbearable to go back and watch that stuff now. So my brother, he's kind of doing this thing of trying to remaster some of this stuff, make it clearer. And so it's quite interesting because that just kind of sparked an insight within me regarding our spiritual gifts and just how human evolution evolves. So you have to realize that there is different times and different eras for different things that happen. And there's different insights that are given to different people that awaken different and new inventions, new ways of being, whether that's a new social norm or something. All of these things are every so often deposited in at different time periods. Have you noticed this? Think about the different eras, the different time periods in human history that we have any knowledge of. And it also seems like these kind of insights come all at once. So a lot of the insights that came around a lot of the advancements that we have around technology, they all came all at once. All of the advancements that came around, let's say, like back when cars were being invented, around cars, around machinery, that kind of revolution time, all of that was deposited at that time. There was other times where maybe there was a lot of spiritual knowledge being kind of infused into our universe, into our earth. And so there was these like writers or philosophers or, poets and different things at different times. And it seems like these insights would kind of awaken different aspects of humanity and different ways of being, that if we really look at it, it's bringing us way, way more towards love, with the ultimate goal, I believe, of unconditional love. So everything is an opening for love, more and more love. And so love has always been there. So we can look back at different eras and times and really kind of romanticize them and think, oh, it was so wonderful. It would have been so wonderful to live at that time, or if you did live at that time, it was so wonderful. But what we don't see is all of the advancements. Sometimes we don't see how the picture has truly gotten clearer. And we're still stuck in this old kind of dingy, kind of muddy, kind of muddied up image that we can't really see. But we think that's the best way. And it feels comfortable, and we can kind of make out what it is. And it feels very nice because it's what we know, but it's not clear. Things are getting clearer, and we really have to realize that there is something pulling us to move more towards clarity, okay? And that means towards clarity within ourselves, within our human nature, within our acceptance and allowance of our own self, dropping judgment, dropping fears, getting back into our true nature. So it's clearing up that muddy water. Now, one very impactful thing that happened was when Jesus walked this earth, and he definitely shared his message. And although it was maybe shared in a different way now, but the message he shared has always stayed, and that is love. And that message has really permeated the earth, and you can really see that there was a change during that time. And it was not just him. We can even talk about Islam and the Prophet Muhammad and different Buddhist, and there's always been these different droppings of insights that come through, and some of them really change the areas that they live in. They really change the culture, change the social norms, usually bring everybody a little bit back into love. Now, every so often we'll see, and most times we do see, that these teachings or any of these inventions or whatever insights that come through eventually do get distorted. But they come in with a pure essence. And for those of us that do have ears to hear, and for everybody, because everybody will be able to hear, eventually those frequencies or tones will reach them. See, we can't always hear everything, because if we're not at the right frequency, if we aren't matching it, it just doesn't even register. We don't hear it. So another interesting story. My parents have these kind of like machines that release these sounds. They give off these sounds. There are different frequencies that will keep little animals away. Squirrels, cats, whatever, little rodents and things that would come to your home. Now, they use it to keep cats away because they don't want the cats in their property. So anyhow, this releases this very strong like noise, and my daughter and I can hear it when we come, but my parents can't hear it as much because their frequency, what they're tuned to, is different because of their age. Now, that's just something that happens. And I remember when I was younger, there was these ringtones, if y'all can remember back with me to the old cell phones, just the little block cell phones that we had to kind of like just with the blue or green screens on them. Well, we could download, the fun thing about them at that time was to download ringtones. And so we could download like our favorite singers and just different things like that. Well, I downloaded a ringtone that, it was a ringtone that only people of a certain age could hear. So maybe I was like 15 at the time. So I downloaded the one that only people between like 12 and 17 could hear. And so it was this frequency, and really, truly, it was that way. Only people that were younger could hear the noise, and older people could flat out not hear it. So it's the same sort of thing. Unless you're tuned into this frequency, which is not It's something that is happening internally, okay? Something that's happening, it's all an illusion, but anyhow, stick with me. We're just talking about us as a person. Within us, this is kind of happening, okay? There's this frequency that's there, and either we're matching it or we're not. And if we're matching it, then we can hear. So for those that can hear, they can hear and see these things changing for the better. For those that can't, all they experience is fear. They experience fear. So for example, when they hear that there has been aliens on this earth, that their government has all of these files and things about this nature, and all of these things, for someone that is not tuned into love, that is so scary. Okay, so instantly there's a fear of the unknown. For the person that's tuned into love, they have become very used to the unknown, because love makes you go through basically hell to experience the power of the unknown, of following and having faith in the unknown. And in that is love, like an immense amount of love. So the unknown is no longer scary. You know that you were always held, and you know that every experience coming in is filled with love. It's only the distortions, the people that are in fear, that create these kind of self-fulfilling prophecies for themselves. So for the person that is riddled with fear, something like AI or something like that is completely scary, okay, and out of this world. And so they can't go there. They can't allow that to unfold. They can't allow that invention to be here. As far as the aliens, they can't allow them to be part of this. They will probably start a war with them. They will probably try to get rid of them. So everything in fear separates, and basically, like they say in Christianity, they used to say the devil kills, steals, and destroys. Basically, the devil is something actually within you. It's an energy, the energy of fear, the energy, the opposite of love, okay? The far spectrum of love on the other end. So if you are in fear, you are essentially basically in hell, and it is that. So a lot of people ask, what are the consequences for people in terms of like non-duality? If nothing's happening, if people do these things, what are the consequences? Well, first of all, there's no one for it to happen to. Secondly, anything that happens, there is all kinds of built-in consequences, natural consequences that are way worse than you can imagine. If you've dealt with anything like mental anguish, stress, pain, anxiety, suffering, mental suffering, do you know the torment of that? Sometimes we think, okay, these criminals, these people, they don't really suffer. They don't have emotions. They do. They have a lot going on there. They have a lot of suffering, a lot of deep suffering going on. So we can really only worry about ourselves. Everybody is going through their own journey, and that journey is completely complete. It's complete in its form, its intelligence. It knows exactly what that person needs to experience in which ways. It's quite amazing. So we can allow things to unfold without being scared of the unknown. So there's a transition now. It's a very profound transition. We're transitioning from basically these old TVs in the 90s to these much clearer TVs right now in 4K. And I'm not just talking about a TV. I'm talking about our reality. Our reality is being upgraded, okay? Our reality is moving forward. And this has always been happening. So why are we so scared? Let go. Allow it to happen. All of this has been happening. There has actually been a lot more suffering in our past. There's been a lot more abuse of children, a lot more abuse of women, a lot more just all kinds of things, like, just not allowing people their own human rights. Women didn't really have rights for a long time. Children, they don't really have rights for longest time, based on your color, or, if you were a different race or whatever, you were treated differently and your rights were much different. Now we're seeing things like genders and all of these new things that we hadn't seen before, and gender inequality and genders wanting, to be respected and things like that, and have rights, to everything that maybe other couples have and things like that. So all of these things are happening. And they're really moving towards what? Towards love, towards acceptance, towards allowing those things that want to be here. Do you know that it is a miracle that you are here? That you being here is so wanted? So if you are so wanted, if you are such a miracle being here, why is that person that is a different race than you, has a different idea of gender than you, why are they such a threat to you? They are just as worthy. They are a miracle. They're just expressing something differently for what we don't know. All we can know is the unknown is always love. We're always moving towards love. And the more that we allow it, we can be shown that. Love shows us that, but we don't see that. No one can pull out a book and, show us this stuff and really in a way that we can know it unless we allow it and we do it, we live it. This is a living spirituality, everything, God, it's a living experience, okay? You have to live it. And so this is why if you have a spiritual gift, it is very important that you live it, that you permeate the world with it, that you penetrate the world with that idea. Whether it is that you are hiding a musical talent within you that you are scared to share. Maybe you're scared to sing for everybody. Maybe you're scared to perform in front of people, but you are an amazing musician of some kind. Maybe you're scared because you sing differently. Maybe you're scared because you create music and it's very different than what other people have ever created. And you don't know how that will be taken. Maybe your music is very dark. Maybe it's very heavy. And you're actually a very happy-go-lucky person and you don't know how that will be received. You have to allow these things. If you feel this nudging and tugging on you, it is because it was deposited in you. Okay? If you have a gift to speak, to share a message, to share an idea, that was deposited in you because that was meant to be released into what is happening here in this reality at this time, at this era, just like things were released in the era prior to us being here, the technology, the internet. If those people hadn't released their gifts, if those people hadn't gone through with the things that people would have thought they were crazy for, then we wouldn't have this today. You wouldn't be able to see me here today. We wouldn't be able to have this conversation virtually this way. And it is because of those people that we now have more love, more understanding, more growth, more expansion. So we have to allow growth. It is just a natural part of evolution. And so open your eyes to the way reality works. Go back in time, and time is an illusion, but our reality plays out a beautiful story. And our story has a continuum. Our story grows. Our story seems to start and end somewhere. It doesn't really end and it doesn't really start, but it seems to have this continuum. And where are we now? And what is it that you have within you that needs to be deposited for that continuum to continue on smoothly towards love? So if you have something within you, whatever it is, the gift of mechanics, the gift of whatever it happens to be, you have to allow that to be. You have to release that. Now let's talk about something a little bit harder here. Spiritual gifts and our spiritual side. Many of you that I talk to are scared to share your true selves, are scared to share your true spiritual sides with your family. A lot of people I talk to don't live in the United States. They don't live in a Western country that maybe everybody has different beliefs and it's quite normal to accept this stuff. So you have to understand some people truly live in places where it is not accepted yet to talk about anything outside of whatever is the norm there. Okay. But you have a spiritual gift, and right now we have evolved to the point that we do have these things like YouTube. We do have ways to connect with other communities and things, even while we're living in a country where we may not find other people that resonate with us, we can still connect virtually. So there are still ways to connect this way, but unfortunately, a lot of people are suffering with this. They don't feel that they can share with their families their own spiritual experiences because their families believe beliefs that have been just taught to them. It wasn't something that they felt. They've never learned to trust their own bodies. They've never learned to trust their own selves. So they have rules. They have rule books. And if you don't follow the rule books, then you can't be part of that. And so, but yet there are these children, there are these people that have had actual experiences that, believe it or not, are talked about all the time in these rule books. But, people want to overlook them for their righteousness. People want to point fingers. People want to go into that rule book and say, you're not following this rule. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. That is something that they're projecting, okay? They're projecting whatever people say. When they judge you, they're moving everything through their lens. And so they feel that they're not following rules. They feel that they're not worthy. They feel that they have to do works. So they're projecting that through their own lens. So work through your own lens. Don't worry about anybody else's lens, because some people have some very distorted lenses. And so they will have to clear that up on their own, and that'll happen. So we have to just kind of stay in our own lane. If we have spiritual gifts, if we have a spiritual experience, it is truth. It is happening within us. That is more true than somebody sitting there and pointing at a rule that you know nothing about. You don't know where it came from, nothing about it. It isn't part of your experience. It's something that someone else is bringing in and trying to push on you. That is not you. You have to go with you. What have you experienced? What is your body telling you? What are your experiences telling you? What is your world telling you? So there was also a story that I heard about Elon Musk, and I know he has a book out. I haven't read it. But my brother shared some stuff with me, and so it sounds very interesting to me. I probably will read it at some point. But I remember an interview a while back, because he looked a lot younger, and he was talking about how he was as a child. And they were asking him, they were curious about how this smart man, how he was. And he shared a very terrifying story. He said that growing up, he heard all kinds of voices and thoughts and ideas in his head, and they would just race. And he had so many ideas constantly that he didn't know what to do with that. And on top of that, I don't know, he didn't share that he shared it with anybody, but he said that he noticed that nobody else had that. And so he was terrified to share that with anybody, because he thought if he shared all of these ideas and marvelous things and that were happening within his own mind, that he would be locked up. That's what he thought as a child. And so I related to that a whole lot, because as a child, and still today, if not more today, I also experience lots of thoughts, lots of ideas, lots of voices, lots of information, everything I attributed to talking to God. So there was a time that I was much older, and, my mother would talk to me about, prayer, and why I would only talk to God, and why I didn't pray specifically to Jesus, or like most Christians pray in Jesus' name, amen. And I typically never did that. And I found it strange that people did do that. And so, I flat out told my mom, I said, I pray directly to God because I have a direct connection with God. I talk to God all the time. So I found it silly that, somebody would have to go through someone or do something through someone, whether that's a priest or a saint or, something like that, or pray to another intercessor to get to God. Because for me, as long as I had language or could remember, I was having conversations with God. And I'm not talking like just little thoughts, just back and forth conversation with God within my own mind. That's how I would gain understanding about things. And that's how I would gain peace in very stressful situations and things like that. And on top of that, that energy was an energy that I always attributed to it felt outside of me in a way. It felt that it was God, but it felt like it was never going to leave me. It felt it was part of me. So I always had that, and it was quite nice, but I never really wanted to share that with anybody because I noticed that no one else talked about it that way. And anytime, like, for example, in that situation or anything that was shared in a certain way like that, it didn't seem that anybody had that experience. And I wonder if that's true or not, because I talk to so many people now that do have experiences like that. And I wonder if so many people just kind of deny that within themselves, thinking that if they share it, they'll be thought of as crazy, or they'll be thought of as something's wrong with them. So if you haven't watched my previous video to this about spiritual gifts, I talk about a time that I went to go see a prophet. And I went to go see, this was just a prophet in our church. I just went, to service. And one day he did call on me and he prophesied different things. One of the prophecies that he gave was that I was not crazy. And that's all he said. And so I thought it was quite interesting. At the time, I didn't have that much going on, but eventually it all tied up for me what that was about. And it was about that. It was about the voices. And it was about the voices that I was not crazy over that, because for the longest time, I really did think that I was crazy. Now, I went to school for psychology. I tried to figure out if there was anything wrong with me. I tried to do all of these things. And so I went to school for psychology. I did all these things. I related to things, but no, I didn't have those things. And eventually, the last place I worked was a place that was just for clients that had serious mental illness. And so I worked with schizophrenic patients. And these schizophrenic patients I had were quite interesting. I had some that had schizophrenia, and some of them just had psychosis, and due to bipolar or other things they had. And this was quite interesting because I had never worked with that population before. And I began to do some kind of new things that I don't think a lot of other therapists were doing, because when they heard I was doing it, they were like, what? We didn't know all of this about schizophrenics. And I was quite surprised, because all I was doing was asking schizophrenics to journal what their voices were saying. That was it. That was all I was asking them to do, so that they could report back to me what was going on, because these voices were very dark, were very scary, were telling them to do things, and some of them were very smart, and it was very interesting, the things, and they all had their different personalities and all of these different things. And so I wanted more information. So because I only saw them once a week, I would ask them to journal. And so I had one man that did very well journaling. He was a man that was mentally ill, but functioning very well, which was different than some of the other patients that I had. Because some of the other patients that I had were mentally ill and being taken care of by their mother, by their father. They were in and out of mental homes, in and out of psychiatric hospitals, things like that. They might have caregivers. They were on disability, that sort of thing. This man had full-blown schizophrenia, and he was an engineer. He went to a very nice university. He had friends. He was trying to find someone to get married to. He had goals. He wanted to have children. Basically, he was pretty average man. But he had a little bit of more of an intelligence. He had higher intelligence, I would say. Anyhow, he had schizophrenia that came on suddenly when he was 28 years old. And he was now a little older than that. But anyway, I had him journal all of these voices. And these voices were telling him how to build a time machine, okay? And that was how this whole thing started. And he described this to me during sessions, but it was so detailed, so interesting. And so that's why I had him journal it. And so when he brought all of these things in, these voices were telling him exact plans of how to build this thing. They were telling him, prophesizing to him how it would happen, why he would do it. Apparently, he was going to be accused of a crime that he didn't do. He was going to go to jail, and in there would spark a complete desire to create this machine. And then he would create this machine and get out of there. Okay, crazy story, I know. But anyhow, he had all of these plans, and then he had other voices that were other beings. Some of them, one of them was like prophets or something from the Bible. There was 2 prophets, and they shared their whole entire story. And he was able to ask them questions and gain information from them. He was talking to a pastor that had passed on. He was able to gain information from a pastor that had passed on. And these insights and information, I tell you, were not jumbled up. They were not crazy. These things that he was sharing were very profound. They made a lot of sense. When he talked, he shared with me that he had no knowledge of these things. These were not things that he researched. These were not things that he knew about. These were not things that were coming from him, because I had to ask him that, because that was part of eventually our treatment, to really figure out if these things were coming from him, because they did not seem that they were. And they weren't. So they weren't coming from him. And so I found that quite interesting. And so I've also had my experiences like that as well, that I've had like my grandmother, I've had my twin flame, I've had different people that are, very famous come through and things like that to me as well. And they also reveal things and share things that identify them in a way that it's them. And then they give you whatever information that you need to know or have. And or you can ask them to leave, or you can call on them and they can be here in the second. So you have to understand that all of consciousness is here and now, all of it. Everyone that's passed on, everyone that will ever be, everything is here and now, and you have complete access to it here and now. Although we do not know how to, some of us do know how to do it, but some of us don't know everything around it, like how and why and all of this stuff. So like when it was happening to him, and at the time I was giving him therapy, I wasn't clear on that. I wasn't clear on what was happening, but it didn't make sense in terms of my training in psychology at all. And so I had to kind of go with other therapists and talk to them about it, share these things. He, as a matter of fact, had a session with, they gave him another therapist there as well to kind of work with them to see what was happening. And people were amazed, and they were amazed. Weirdly enough, no one had ever tried to gain information from these voices ever at this center, and it's a big center here where I live. They had never tried to understand or know what the voices of a schizophrenic were saying. All they ever did was try to get the voices to shut up. They would only ever do therapies where they would tell the person that the voices were not real. That's the only therapies they would do. So whenever they got a hold of these journals, and I had one therapist sit in on me with the door open on the outside, she was amazed. She could not believe the stuff that these so-called energies or voices were saying. So basically what that is channeling. It's a spiritual gift, okay? Whether or not you want to do that, that's up to you. Basically, you have access to all consciousness at all time because it is you. Okay? This is just a play of life. This is not as serious as you think. Some people are thinking, if I talk to the dead, I'm going to go to hell. No, guys, hell is in your mind. Everything that is here and now is available for you to play with. The toy store is open. This is it. You have access to anything here that you want. If you want to play with these things, you can. If you want to play with these things, you can. Different things bring different things. You have to kind of just go wherever you go. And for some people, that just is something that is a very permanent gift on them. Like, for example, with that man, he tried to get rid of these voices. He really did. And at one point I asked him, I said, do you really want these voices to leave? Because at some point we would have these conversations and I noticed a spark of of excitement, of joy about these voices. And I noticed like this spark, this tiniest little bit in his eye. And so it came to me to ask him, I said, do you really want these voices to leave? And he went into his truth and he said, no. So the truth of it is, some of these people actually, they may not understand it all the way and they may not know it, and they'll go to therapies trying to get rid of it, but there's something there that says this is needed for you for something. I don't know what it is for him. I don't. But for whatever reason, it's there. And for him, it's a very unusual experience. And we're all experiencing our own realities, and they're very different. Imagine his reality, right? It's very different. So for me, I've always experienced kind of these energies that come in. I've always experienced angels. I've been attracted to angels. I've always been wanting to collect angels. Been very attracted to that, okay? Always been sensing things around me. So that is the spiritual gift. And so if that is happening with you, there's no shame to say that. People will say you're crazy. People will say this and that. The more we normalize this, the more that we can make this the norm, because the majority of people I talk to have spiritual gifts. The majority of people I talk to have spiritual experiences that they're scared to death to share with their families. How is that so? And I understand that. I understand that because I myself had all kinds of experiences that I've never shared with my family. And I didn't share it with them because I really didn't think that they would understand. These experiences were not experiences I had ever heard anybody else talk about. My twin flame experience, my near-death experience. All of these things I went through alone, but really I wasn't alone because I had all of this energies and support around me. And so when we embrace the support around us that's interior to us, these energies, they're very supportive to us, even when those around us on the exterior in our reality aren't there for us. So we have a lot of support. We are never apart from that God side, okay? We are never apart from that. God is always here and now and everything in every moment. So you're always supported. So if you have something to share, I also shared in my previous video, I worked with, women in domestic violence, kids that had been abused, women that had been, all kinds of things had happened to them. I've worked with refugees of war. I've worked with people that have left, oppressive situations that have just been like gang ridden, these things that are so distorted. And they've come out of that and they've risen up. And as a social worker, I've gotten to watch that turn around to something positive, where now this person that has been through something horrific that you thought would just break them, that you thought should never happen, is suddenly rising up with a voice, as allowing themselves to speak, to open their voice and be a clear, open channel for love, for true love, and speak their own experiences of this. And they're able to connect in a way that only they could connect, because only they have been through what they have been. So this is very powerful. If you have been through something, if you're a cancer survivor, if you're a domestic violence survivor, if you're a survivor of childhood abuse, if you're a survivor of, maybe you've seen animal abuse or something like that, you've been a part of something that has shaken you. That wasn't for nothing. That happened for you to speak your words, to speak your song, to sing your song out into this universe. That is what happened. You were meant to sing that song to those people. And so you can do that if you want, and you will know. There will be something within you saying, this needs to be released. And you'll fight with it and you'll say, no, I can't. It'll be embarrassing. What'll people say? No one will care. I'm not good enough. I'm not the best speaker. I can't do it. There's something wrong with me. I'm not the one for this. God, why me? You'll go through that pleading. And a lot of people continue with that pleading for all of their life, and they suffer for it. Don't suffer for that. Allow it to be released. Let it out. If you have done any of these things, if you have been part of any of these things and you have something to speak on, speak those words. I thought that my twin flame book was the silliest kind of thing to put out there. I thought it was embarrassing. I thought that I couldn't share that with anyone, my family, anybody. But I couldn't not put it out there. Why? Because it would have killed me if I didn't put it out there. It was that powerful of an urge. And it's just as powerful when I make these videos. For example, I wasn't going to make a video today, but the urge is so powerful to release and sing this song that I have to do it. And so that book, I've received many emails around that book and how powerful it has been for people and how they've related to it and how they themselves have had twin flame unions and journeys, and how that has brought them into loving themselves and into union with the truth. And so that has been beautiful. And I got one email in specific that the person's life was turned around in a way that they described before and after, and what their life was before and what it was after. And if it had gone the way that it was before any longer, that person wouldn't be here today. And so your words, what you have to share in this world, may be what someone needs. That little bit of hope that someone needs to go on, to see it differently. to transmute that thing they thought was shameful into something beautiful and grand. See, God doesn't create trash. The trash that you see, that you think that's trash, it's not trash. It's just like that diamond. Under pressure, it becomes something magnificent, something beautiful, something radiant, something multifaceted, something that we just don't even understand, something tough, something hard, something that we can't even put our finger on. It's so clear we don't know what it is, but it is beautiful and it is bright and radiant and shining. Isn't that what the diamond is? You are that diamond in the rough. You've been in that pressure cooker. You've been there. And you felt like you were that coal, that dirty coal. But you're not. Do you know that? You're not. You're not that dirty coal. You're not at all. You're this beautiful, radiant, multifaceted, tough, stronger than anything diamond. That's you. So let that gift out. Let it come out, and then you will see that diamond. You will see your diamond side to you. Okay? So let it out. Let it out. Whatever it is, if you need to switch from whatever it was that the life has programmed you into. You see, children come into this life with gifts. They're bright. They're radiant. Children have gifts. And as a teacher of like very young kids, like pre-K and kindergarten, I got to see that. They have gifts. You can see those that are shining brighter, that are going to make more of an impact here. You can see those that might be an inventor. You can see those that have a passion for this or that. And you can even see those that might be, have this gender identity that's more this way or that way. You can see all of those things at a very young age. Okay? But what happens? What happens then? We ruin them. We ruin them by telling them that their gift is no good. That instead of them wanting to sing and dance, because that's not going to make them any money, they need to go and now be a lawyer. They need to go and put that away, put the joy away, and go sit down and read a bunch of books and do something that they don't want to do all the hours of their days. No. We need to build up and embrace and build up these gifts, because these gifts are what transforms our reality from that black and white TV to a color TV, from a 90s TV to a 4K 2023 TV. But some of y'all want to stay watching black and white. We have to embrace the gifts these children have, and we have to embrace the gifts that we have within. It starts within. So start embracing your gifts, and you'll see that you'll be able to embrace everybody else's gifts much better. It starts with you. If you don't accept yourself, if you judge yourself, if you shame yourself, then that is how you will see the world. That is the lens that you will filter everything through. Drop it. Drop it now. You are but a bird. You are nothing more than that. You're something great. But as this expression that you are expressing as this human body that I am here, I am a vessel. I am just like a bird that sits out on the power line and sings its song every morning and every night. That is what I am. And what I've done is collect lots of experiences throughout this life, because I am infinity, and I'm collecting experiences and seeing which ones match more towards love, and checking and moving towards that. Is it more fear? Is it more love? I'm moving more towards love. It's infinity, trying out infinite experiences, moving more towards love every time. That's what's happening here. It's collecting these experiences until it feels that unconditional love, and it sees the truth of reality. And then what happens? Kind of goes into default mode, and it just goes out like the birds every morning and every evening and just sings its song. And for me, that's sitting here and just making these videos. I don't really plan these videos. I don't have a script. I don't do anything like that. I sit here with this passion, with this urge to speak some words around certain topics that I feel are going to be good for those people out there. That's all. That's all it is. So if what it is for you is that maybe you've been deposited with some musical gift to sing, then you will sing your song every day. If it's to play a musical instrument, then you will sing your musical instrument every day. If it's to write, then you will write your book every day. If it's to teach, then you will teach every day. If it is to be a mechanic, then you will be a mechanic every day. Okay? Whatever it happens to be. If it is a DJ, if it is being a trash collector, if it is that you love trains, whatever it happens to be, sing your song every day without shame. Don't let anybody tell you that your gift is not worthy, that your gift is not worth money, that your gift will not be compensated. This universe compensates love. So don't worry about it. Go your way, and all of that will come. All of that will fix itself. Be true to you. Otherwise, it will become so painful that you won't be able to stand it. And I don't want you to feel that. I've been in that space, and it's not something that's very pleasant. And it's not something that you have to go through. So that's why I make these videos, because you don't have to go through that. You can go ahead right now in this moment and decide to align to your heart. And you can bypass all of that stuff. People say don't bypass this stuff. You can. You can when you recognize your true nature. And if that happens, if you're so lucky for that to happen now because you're so much wanting this, that it happens, then you can go ahead and do that. And I offer you something here. I have an offering for you. I offer one-on-one sessions where we do just that. And we have quite amazing breakthroughs in our one-on-ones. And I absolutely love doing one-on-ones just as much as I love to sit here and do these videos. I get completely engulfed in whatever it is that's happening with that person. And we go there. We go there. We also have the Unconditional course. The Unconditional course is a 3-month supportive course to reorient you to yourself, to get you back to your heart, to get you singing your songs. So if you want to do that, I have an amazing price right now with our early bird special. And so I'd really encourage you to gift yourself this, to give yourself this. Invest in yourself. We always give and do so much for others. We give advice. We do this, we do that. When are we going to do something nice for ourselves? When are we going to give ourselves advice? When are we going to invest in ourselves? Take that course. Take that time off. Do it. Do it for yourself. Love yourself, because that is all there is you. And you are where everything is coming from. So why not invest in the most worthwhile investment ever? Why not? So that is where I leave you today. I hope that you will share your gifts. I hope that one day I will be able to experience your gifts. Every time I watch a beautiful movie, every time I read a beautiful poem or share a beautiful quote with you in my community tab, or listen to a beautiful song, or listen to a beautiful speaker speak about something, that is them sharing their gifts. That message in that movie, that's God. Do you notice that? That all of these messages in the movies and the music and the speakers are all pointing towards what I'm talking about? Why is that so? Because in that gift is God. Share it. I love you all.